What's happening, people? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to run through my lineups for game week 25, take a look back at how I did in game week 24, and there also might be some pretty good rewards to come at the end of the video. Before we do that though, if I can ask that you could drop a like on the video, comment down below anything else you'd like me to do on Sorare on this channel, and also subscribe if you do like daily NBA stuff because we do shorts, and also if you just enjoy the Sorare stuff that we do. Anyway, without further ado, let's take a look at how I did in the last game week on Sorare, and then take a look at my lineups for the upcoming week. And also don't forget, leave your Sorare handle down below, because if we do win in the common champion lineup for game week 25, if we win a limited card, I'll be giving that away. So make sure you leave your Sorare handle and also like your Twitter handle down below if we do win, so I can get in touch with one of you people. So then game week 24 wrapped up last night, and we did pretty well actually in one of the contests. Unfortunately, no win in common champion is what we was looking for to give away that limited card. Hopefully there's better luck next week for game week 25. Rare champion, so close from hitting a reward from this. I'm not sure I'm going to get a 30 from Corey Kisbert again, a 64 from Mikal Bridges, and a 69 from Jaylen Brown. Jeremy Grant perhaps could have done a bit better. His L10 was 34, hit a 38 over the course of 2 games. Not ideal. The big one though was Anthony Edwards. He had that one game against the Pistons, and although he was projected 42, I thought you're still going to play a guy for what's in my gallery as my MVP. And the big blow was that he went down early in the first quarter, didn't come back until I think late in the second, maybe even early the third. He was officially ruled out, but still somehow came back in the game and put up 32. So he gave us a chance, but if he didn't go down, I probably would be looking at a tier 4 reward. Rare is what I'd say. I don't think I'd have got any higher than that because of Jeremy Grant, but it's just one of those things. He's now out. I think he's fine. Jaylen Brown's now out for like the next week or two, but same with rare contender really. We had Jaden Ivey and Gary Trent Jr. that did really well, but Sohan getting in and around his L10 is not ideal. Same with Nemhard, and Dwight Powell got 11 for 2 games, and I think he had an L10 of 15, so that was never going to happen. But the big one, as you can see, we came 93rd in limited champion. I mean, the lineup just clicked. It probably should have done even better, if I'm being completely honest, because Embiid getting a 57 across 2 games from Detroit and OKC was the issue. In OKC, the OKC game, he got 3 early fouls, I think, and sat quite a lot of it, which was the issue for that. That's also why they probably lost. And it's the same with the Pistons. He got his L10, which is, with your MVP, you're always looking for him to score above that, ideally. So no complaints whatsoever. Rare tier 3. If we take a quick look, if you didn't know how to do this, if you go on, is it the prize pool? Yeah, the prize pool, and you'll see that I finished 93rd, so I'm in this part. I'm in this bracket. If you click on this here, it will then show you rare tier 3. So these are all the cards you can get. It's normally tiered, so the higher that you place inside of this, the better card in that tier 3 you'll get. So I'm 93rd, so I'm somewhat in the middle for it, a little bit more towards the favourable end. And then, yeah, with limited contender, we just snuck into the rewards there. Limited tier 5. Matisse Thybulle, disappointing, I guess, from 2 games, considering one was a blowout win, and not a blowout loss, but near enough for the Sixers to be losing at home to the OKC is a blowout. 13 off an L10 and 9. I was hoping for a bit more, but you can't really complain too much. Vucevic did well, 46. Brooks 31, Brown 31, and Chris Boucher did pay off. I did think that the Hornets would struggle against the Toronto size for when they played bigs. Chris Boucher came off the bench on one of those nights and did really well. So that worked. A limited tier 5, you're probably going to get a guy that's worth like £2 that doesn't play, or like a Jake LaRavia rookie card, or a James Bouknight, but a reward is a reward. Right then, so for the slate for game week 25, as you can see, it's pretty much run of the mill. They've swapped out limited under 23 for limited veterans, which I believe is over 30s only. Yeah, at least 30 years old. Again, these competitions, I would recommend personally, don't focus on them. Unless you've got 5 really, really strong limited veteran cards that look better in limited veteran than they do in limited champion. Even then, I probably would still suggest you play them in limited champion. But these are aside. It's another lineup to do instead of doing your training is all I can recommend for them. So I wouldn't focus too much on them. Let's build my rare lineups first, then we'll do limiteds, and then we'll open our rewards at the end. That'll be later on in the day, as I'm obviously recording this a bit earlier on. Right then, so I would normally always say that you should build your champion lineups first, limited or rare or super rare or whatever you play or common. The issue with it for this week, because like in general, your highest card, your best card, you want to put them in the best competitions to win the best rewards possible. The issue with it for me this week is my strongest card, which is my Jaylen Brown in my gallery. He's now out for a week to 2 weeks, so he won't be playing against Charlotte. So as such, I'm actually going to focus on my rare contender lineup first, purely because I think I can build a more competitive team in Rare Contender. Now, obviously, this might all change depending on that tier 3 rare that comes in later on. But for now, we'll build off the gallery I have. So, as ever, in Contender especially, you're only as good as the worst card that you have. So, in my gallery here, I ignore Oubre. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks, I think, with a hand injury. But Chimsy Mitu came back into the Kings rotation in this game week. He put up a 23, which is out of the realms for him normally. And I think he's now slightly in favour again. He seems to be getting minutes, not just garbage time minutes, general minutes. Not loads, but for an L10 of 8 with 2 games against the Rockets and the Spurs, I'll take it for this week. This is what I mean as well. If you ever win a tier 5 reward, I would suggest you never sell it, because you'll always normally get rid of them at the bottom tier price. And there'll be times in the NBA especially where an injury can happen, someone falls out of favour, so on and so forth. And a guy like this can suddenly spike in value, primarily because he's got 2 games, he's got a really low L10, and there's scope for him to get, what, that's almost 3 times, that's 3x his L10. Like, if I won in Limited Champion with Gabe Vincent, he had an L10 of 11 and he scored in the 40s, which is obviously 4 times his L10. So I'd always recommend never selling him, because, for an example like this, so Chimsy Mitu will be in there for me. Now I look at this as well. Dwight Powell's got 2 games, an L10 of 15, back-to-back against Portland. He has been suffering from some hip contusions. He's not been putting up the best of Sorare scores, especially since Christian Wood's come into the starting lineup for them. But we'll slide him in for now so we can see what we can do, because obviously we're going for the lower tier cards first. Joe Harris is also a solid option. He's got 1 game, but it is against the OKC, and he's now starting. Like, he put 34 up against Boston because Kevin Durant's sitting, but he's out for 2 weeks. But Joe Harris is an option, but we'll look at it for now. Andrew Nemhard, back-to-backs, 2 games, not bad, yeah, back-to-backs, L10 and 19. He should be hitting minimum that, and there's scope for more. So now that leaves me with 34 for 2 players in Rare Contender. So if I look around this bracket, I've got RJ Barrett, I've got Jeremy Grant, and I've got Andrew Wiggins. With ever the case with the Warriors this season, they tend to be sitting guys on back-to-backs. Klay Thompson will not play both of these games. Steph Curry potentially might sit one of these games, and the same thing with Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole. If one guy sits, they've tended to start sitting the whole team, essentially. Will I take the risk? Like, I mean, I could do this. I can play RJ Barrett in these 2 games, and then I have enough L10 to do it, Andrew Wiggins. To me, that looks pretty good. So we'll lock this in actually now for here. We'll come back to it after, because we'll see what we can do for Rare Champion anyway. So no Jaylen Brown. Anthony Edwards can slot in. Jeremy Grant can slot in. Jeremy Sohan's got a double he can slot in. Jaden Ivey's got a double he can slot in. That then leaves me with 40. So I could go Gary Trent Jr. on the 1 game against the Hawks. And to be honest, that's probably what I'll do. And then actually, I'll take a look to see how much Joe Harris is selling for, and maybe flip him whilst he's this high. So this is what I mean about holding on to cards and not selling at the bottom of their graphs. For example, this is Joe Harris here on Sorare Data. Joe Harris I've had now in my gallery for quite a while. I won him back, God knows, I've won him at least 6 weeks ago, essentially, as a reward. I won him like back-to-back with Steph Curry rare, which I sold. But you can see the scores he's been putting up, especially in the recent weeks, had a few DMPs through injury. He's then had his minutes cut from when TJ Warren came back into the side and been doing really well. And just in general, he hasn't looked stellar. You can see all of these here, all of his scores. He had a little run here where he was putting up some decent green scores and getting good minutes. They've not been consistent, they've not been good, and he's 31 as well. So I've held on to him because I didn't want to sell him at a low point. As you can see in the price graphs here, it's a rare. This is around the mark he's been. He's been at the 40s and the mid 40 marks. And now, because of that starting lineup role, and also him doing pretty well for an L10 of 13, what did he get? Was it 27? 4. So because of that and a game against the OKC, obviously he spiked. As you saw in my 2 lineups, he just didn't fit for what I had in my gallery, and I'm not going to go out and buy other cards. So depending on the rare card that I get later on tonight, I'm not going to sell him now, I'll sell him closer to lock. But depending on the rare card that I get later on tonight, if that guy comes in and then means there's space for an L10 of 13, then Joe Harris is a great option for me. If not, I'm probably going to cash in and sell him. And this is what I recommend to you as well. Always hold your cards, because something like this can happen. So like I was saying, in terms of getting out at the top and making sure that you get in and around the value that you want when you do exit a card. My example that I've got here would be Shake Milton. So this is the Shake Milton card in general. I think the way that Sorare Data does this as well, I believe it's the exact minted one. So I think it's 122. So I bought this card back, what, on the 11th, on the 4th of November. Almost, the American dates was getting me there. On the 4th of November, I paid £7.81 for it. So that was probably too much at the time as well. A little bit too much for a Shake Milton, because at the time you had DeAndre Melton, you had Tyrese Maxey, and you had James Harden. But I saw the opportunity to just grab him as a player that was getting bench minutes in that moment in time for the Sixers, and I would just accrue. That was what I was doing at the time. I didn't want to put too much ETH in, but I thought, you know, there's scope with Shake Milton. Obviously, all of the injuries happened for the Sixers, where Harden, Melton, and Maxey all went down, meaning that Shake Milton was going to become a starting guard for them. Then you go down to the issue of if you play them or sell them. Now, because his L10 was so low when I had him in the sort of 11 marks, I kept him. And I played him. And I played him at the time where you could use limited cards in the rare lineups. And that's what won me the Jeremy Grant, the Gary Trent, I think the Seth Curry as well. I won a couple of tier 4s and a couple of tier 3s using him. Then before his L10 got too high, I sold out. So I sold him at 44. If you go back to see when these cards' histories happened, I think I'm pretty much at the tippity top of the graph selling him, and then you see it's slowly come down in price because he reached an L10 of in his 30s, and no one realistically wants a Shake Milton in the 30s because that's probably what he's going to get. You want him low when he's got the ceiling for it. It's quite similar with Laundry Shamet with the Suns as well. He had an L10 of like 11, moved into that starting lineup because Booker sat and was injured, and then his L10 catches up with him and his price drops down again. So that's just how it is. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. Let's get back to my limited lineups. Right then, for my limited champion lineup, if we go through this here, Julius Randle is now above Embiid again, still on L10, so he will be my MVP. Embiid will be the backup guy, which means then I've got 21 left to play with. Ja Morant on an L10 of 41, one game. I don't like not playing Ja Morant. I don't like not playing my big cards, but it doesn't really make too much sense. If we scroll down to see the lesser cards again that we've got, Gabe Vincent, he put up that 50. That's an absolute outlier. He's never realistically going to do that again. It was just lucky. I predicted that Kyle Lowry would sit a game. He did, moved into the starting lineup, and then also went really well. So you need a lot of things to go your way for this. But, you know, we finished top 100, so let's see if we can improve on that. If we scroll through the cards that I've got in terms of this, I can't wait for Cam Reddish to get his move because he will be a good asset again. Another potential tip for you to pick up. He's probably around the £4 or £5 mark. He can always fly up to 20 quid, but it's if you want to do it. None of this is financial advice, as we say. 21 now, each. I do like Franz Wagner. I do like the game against the Jazz. 32 L10 with 2 games. We can swallow that. I think Jamal Murray's been questionable recently, and he's been like that all season, realistically. If Jamal Murray sits, Bruce Brown usage goes through the roof. So we'll throw Bruce Brown in there. That leaves an L10 and 9. We could put Matisse Thybulle to round the lineup off. In fact, this is probably what I will do. I do want to play Vucevic is the only other issue, but I don't think if I get rid of all these cards here, if I get rid of Brown and Wagner, play Vucevic, that leaves an L10 of 13. Yeah, I mean, I could play Gabe again. I could play Corey Joseph, but Corey Joseph is, he got 27 against the Sixers, but that 27, that they come once every 10 games. So probably had his, it's not how it works, but he's probably had his game for a little while. So I'm not really focused on that. And I think that the outlay of which Vucevic and Corey Joseph can get could probably be, it will be less than what a Franz Wagner and what a Bruce Brown can give me. Buddy Hield's also a great pick this week. 37 is quite high, but he's been doing really well for the Pacers recently, so I'd give that a look. Right then, limited contender. We'll again scroll down towards. This is where I will play Corey Joseph, just because then it enables me a little bit of more cap space on some of the cards towards the back end. I think Luke Kennard's been struggling again with his calf. An L10 of 17, he's come down from the mid-20s of what his L10 was, I believe. So he's now more in a scope of that's playable. It's still a bit too much for me. I do want to play Grant Williams. Like, for example, he's got 2 games here. You'd always normally tend to go for the 2-game guy, but Grant Williams has been moved into the starting lineup. Jaylen Brown's missing. He definitely has the potential to get games in the 40s, but more consistently and more importantly, he's got games where he can get mid-20s, low 30s, especially when he's starting. So we will play Grant Williams this week. Jalen Duren's been out with an ankle injury. I'm not going to risk it for him, especially on a back-to-back. He'll only play one of those games, most likely. Drew Eubanks back-to-back against the Mavs. Again, potential there. I'll have a look. Hang on. I'd quite like to play one of Buddy Hield or Vucevic. If I play Vucevic, let me tinker about with this, and I'll show you I'll show you my final lineup at the end. So then, as I said before, I did want to play Vucevic, and playing about with it, I've settled on this lineup, primarily because I can play Dylan Brooks this way. He has only got 1 game. It's against the Pacers, but he's projecting to get in the 30s. Drew Eubanks, the 2 games, I did quite like that. And it also means I can then play Vucevic, which was primarily the reason, although it was a tier 5, I did sneak another reward in contender this week. This is my common champion lineup. This will be the lineup that if it hits and we do finish in the top 1000 and win a limited card, I will be giving this away to one of you guys down below at random. So make sure you leave your Sorare handle below, because if this hits and we get a top 1000 finish, I'll be giving this card away. Right, then that'll wrap it up from me. The rewards will probably come just after this, because obviously I'm recording this earlier before the rewards come out. I'm in England, so our time schedules for it are a bit mad on the NBA side, especially with lock. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Approximately 10 hours later.
Right then, so it's the end of the day. The rewards have just dropped. I'm going to do them now, rip them now, and see what we get. So we'll start off a common contender, tier 1. You can get some decent tier 1 cards here. Not expecting the most. Anything helps. Sixers, forward, Tobias Harris. Joel Embiid come down as a forward first was a throw off, but we'll take an Embiid common. That definitely helps. The tier 5 from the contender, not expecting anything of a realistic note here. Cavs, Santa, Robin Lopez barely gets minutes. Then for the big one, our top 100 reward in limited champion, a rare tier 3. You can get some really nice pieces. It's just fingers crossed we get someone good here. Pels forward. Trey Murphy the third. I was hoping for something. He's got a good L10. I'm not sure what his value is, but I'll take it definitely.